Lifeway Research several years ago surveyed parents, over 1,000 parents, many coming from churches, and they asked parents, so what is success going to look like in your family? Like when you think about your kids, when they grow up, what do you want for them? And most parents said something along the lines of, I want my kids to be happy. If they can grow up and be happy, then I will consider myself have been a successful parent. If my kids can grow up and they can graduate from high school and get a degree from college and get a good career and then get married, then that's success. That's what most parents said was their goals for their kids. Only 9% of these parents, most of them church-attending parents, only 9% said their goal for their kids was to raise godly children. Only 9% had a vision of their kids growing up and following the footsteps of Jesus. But I pray that that would not be true here at New Life. I pray that whether you're a parent, a grandparent, or single like me and don't have any kids, but we realize that we have an obligation to pass the baton of faith to our next generation, that it is our number one priority. The book of Psalms puts it this way. Psalm 78 commands us, saying, He, meaning God, planted a witness in Jacob. He set His word firmly in Israel. Then He commanded our parents to teach it to their children so the next generation would know, and all the generations to come, know the truth and tell the stories so that their children can trust in God. Never forget the works of God, but keep His commandments to the letter. You know, friends, Christianity, faith in God, is always just one generation away from extinction. Fortunately, the leader of Israel, who was leading in Israel in the time of Joshua and Moses. Moses has given Joshua the commandments of God, and he says, you need to teach this to your children. Joshua says, yeah, I'm up for it. Sounds good to me. And so he goes, Joshua, he's leading the nation of Israel, and he looks at his friends, he says, hey, God has delivered us from this promised land. But we have to understand that there's a lot of nations around us that are tempting us to worship their other gods. And so he says, choose today whom you will serve. Joshua says, choose today whom you will serve. But then he famously says, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That's what Joshua said. That's what he was committed to. And yet a few pages later in the Bible, in the book of Judges, Judges chapter 2, verse 10, one of the most tragic verses in the Bible says this. After that whole generation, Joshua's generation, was gathered to their ancestors, they died. After them, another generation rose up who knew neither the Lord nor what He had done, the works He had done for Israel. Like, how tragic is that? This faithless generation are the kids of the Israelites who have walked through the Jordan River. They've seen God split the Jordan River. They've seen God knock down the walls of Jericho, and their kids don't know anything about it. They're the grandkids of the people who God has led out of Egypt. With a mighty hand and outstretched arm, He has split the Red Sea. He has provided for them manna in heaven. And they don't know anything about this miracle-working God. Why? Because if we're going to pass the baton of faith to the next generation, it's going to be something that we do intentionally, not something that happens just by accident. So how do we do that? Whether you're a parent, grandparent, or just a mentor to kids at this church. Today we're going to look at a woman in the Bible, and actually a mother in the Bible, who taught her son how to follow God. And she is a very overlooked mother in the Bible. Most people don't really know much about her story. So I want us to unpack a little bit of her story. So if you would open up your Bibles to Proverbs 31. That's where we read about her, Proverbs 31. Open up your Bibles to Proverbs 31. And as you do, I don't know if I hear grumbling out there, because some of you women, you're like, oh, I've heard about the Proverbs 31 woman. Like, I've heard about her a lot, okay? And she's like this perfect standard of like the wife of noble character that I'm supposed to live up to. But it's like she's waking up before the sun gets up, and she's starting businesses, and she's taking care of her kids. Like, I'm sick and tired of hearing about this Proverbs 31 woman. Yeah. Well, don't worry, because we're not talking about her. Okay, we're not talking about her today. We're talking about the other Proverbs 31 woman who's found in verses 1 through 9. Okay, 1 through 9, okay? So, just to show you how oftentimes overlooked this mother is, recently I've been hearing about ChatGPT. I don't know if you heard about ChatGPT, about how smart ChatGPT is, and how, it's passing the bar exam. It's smart enough to be a lawyer, and it could be a medical doctor. It's passing all the boards. I had a staff member here said, Sean, ChatGPT could write your sermons for you. You should probably just ask. That sermon will be just as good as anything you write. And so I challenged ChatGPT this week. And I put in a ChatGPT, write me a Mother's Day sermon based upon Proverbs 31, 1 through 9. And you know what I got? A Mother's Day sermon based upon the wife of noble character, verses 10 through 31. Even ChatGPT doesn't know about this woman. So apparently life as a preacher isn't as easy as it looks, okay, right? Know your role, ChatGPT. Know your role. So let's dive into the text. Proverbs 31, starting in verse 1, says this. The words of King Lemuel, a pronouncement that his mother taught him. The words of King Lemuel, a pronouncement that his mother taught him. So we're introduced to this guy named King Lemuel. He's the author of this proverb. But who in the world is King Lemuel? Well, I don't know. Most scholars don't know. They debate, like, who is this King Lemuel? The other proverbs have been written by King Solomon. And so some scholars say it must be King Solomon. It's probably King Solomon. He's just giving himself a nickname. He's disguising himself. It's King Solomon. Other scholars think, no, it's probably King Hezekiah. It was probably King Hezekiah. We really don't know who King Lemuel was. We just know that he was a leader in ancient Israel. He's a king, and now he's teaching his kingdom the lessons that his mom taught him. And some others, I just want you to put yourself in her shoes, okay, for a little bit this morning. Just imagine, your son or your daughter one day becomes the president of the United States. They're elected president. You're a proud mom. You're like, that's my kid. And they get up for their inauguration address, and they're like, hey, thank you, nation. I'm so honored. I'm humbled that you would consider me worthy to be your president. And I just want you to know that what got me here is what's going to keep me here, and it's what my mom taught me. And then your son or daughter just talks about how their mom taught them about making wise choices, about treating other people the way they want to be treated, about trusting God no matter what. They're talking to the whole nation, and they're not talking about what some professor taught them. They're not talking about what they learned, okay, from some boss. They're talking about the lessons I learned from my mom growing up. Don't you want that to be your story? That could be your story if we impart to our kids the wisdom that this mother teaches her son. What does she teach him? Let's see in verse 2 when she says this. What should I say, my son? What son of my womb? What son of my vows? She says, hey, don't spend your energy on women or your effort on those who destroy kings. So when I read those verses, I just hear the voice of my mom in my head. When I was in high school, she said, Sean, you don't need to date when you're in high school. It's a waste of energy. Okay, most relationships that are starting in high school end in high school. It just leads to conflict. She says, you have more important things to focus on. You've got your relationship with God. You've got sports. You've got school. Focus on those things. Just be friends with girls, and you won't regret it. And I'm glad that I listened. I'm glad because now I've got great friends still to this day with girls that we have relationships that were just cool and no regrets. A lot less regrets because I listened to my mom. Students, are you hearing me? You listen to your mom. You listen to your mom. I know for me, there was this wrestling match, though. Should I really listen to her? Right? Because part of me was like, but I want to fit in. Right? Part of me is like, but I want to be in a relationship. I want to have a girlfriend. But there was part of me that said, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it's worth it. Because she had the courage to share that truth with me, I benefited. I think the main truth that I want to extract from these verses is if we're going to help our children follow after Jesus for the rest of their lives, we need to help them cultivate godly relationships. Whether it's with friends, significant others, a spouse one day, we need to help them cultivate godly relationships or friendships. We need to teach them the truth of Proverbs 13:20 that says that he who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. Students, a modern day version of this proverb goes like this. Students, show me your friends and I will show you your future. Yes, you show me your friends and I will show you your future. The people that we surround ourselves with influence the people that we become. The values that we embrace, the decisions that we make, just think about it. Think about all the ways that your friends, even today, influence the things that you do. You see your friends go on vacation, they put us on Facebook, and you're like, maybe we should go on vacation. That looks fun. Or your friends buy a new car, and you're like, I think we need a new car. Our car's kind of getting old. Your friends start talking about like investing, and you're like, what's that app that you use? And you find yourself following in their footsteps. Well, all of a sudden, sometimes you associate yourself with friends, and they're like going on missions trips, and you're like, maybe I should go on a missions trip. Maybe I should serve at church. Yes, who walks with the wise will grow wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. Warren Surf is a neuroscientist at the University of Chicago. For the past 20 years, he's been studying brain activity. And his research shows that just by being in the same room with people, your brain waves begin to align with each other. Yes, modern science is telling us what the Bible has told us for thousands of years, that he who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. And so we need to put our kids in environments where they can build relationships with other people who are heading in the direction that we want them to head. We want them to go, following Jesus. And where are they going to do that? Just think, where are your kids going to be able to cultivate those friendships? They're going to need friends. Where are they going to cultivate those godly relationships? I doubt they're going to cultivate those at a public high school. Okay, at least that was my experience. Maybe things are different here, but in Buffalo, New York, I was the only Christian guy at my grade following Jesus. It was a mission field, but there wasn't other Christian guys that I could walk with. Fortunately, though, I had my friends from church. Thank God for that. I had Matthew Steger. I had Andrew Gerber. I had Brett Vroman, Joel Shackelford. I had Krista Bowers. I had Aaron Connors. And on Friday nights during the basketball season, they weren't at their high school watching their friends play. They were at my high school watching me play, just encouraging me. And in the stands with them were youth leaders, people who had been teaching me since I was a young age in Sunday school, like Kathy Belanti and Mike Bowers and Jim Walker and Matt Schlabach and Larry Paul. These leaders that just said, Sean, we're here for you so that you realize that you're not alone following Jesus. There's so much pressure for our kids today to conform to the world around them. If they're going to swim upstream, they need other students swimming upstream with them. That's why it's so important that you get your kids to church, you get them plugged in Kids Zone. The average student, the average child, their worldview is set by the age of 13. By the age of 13, we have that much time with them to set their worldview, to establish in them values and the truth of God and His Word that's going to guide them for the rest of their lives. And so you need to get them in Kids Zone. In Kids Zone, not only will they learn those truths, but they'll build relationships with other kids, and they'll build relationships with mentors, with volunteers, that they say, one day I want to be like those people. Right? I want to be like Mr. Mike. I want to be like Miss Cindy. I want to be like Mr. Scott. That dude is hilarious. Right? I want to be like Mr. Scott. You put them in that environment, it'll benefit them for years to come. You get them plugged in with John Baker. If they're in middle school and high school, you get your middle school and high schools connected with the student ministry. John's been killing it since he's gotten here. Starting New Life at Night every first Sunday of the month. Students come here to Stand Upon the End Zone to build those relationships, learn about God, realize that they're not alone following Jesus. They've got home groups every week. If your kids aren't plugged in yet, go see John after service so your kids can get plugged into those environments and start cultivating those godly relationships. You know, I hear it sometimes. I was in the CrossFit box leading the class a couple weeks ago, and I was inviting one of our members, said, hey, you should come to New Life. You should bring your kids to New Life. It would be really good for you and your kids. And he said, yeah, I know it would be good for us. But he says, but Sean, I don't want to force religion on my kids. I don't want to force church on them. I want it to be their decision. Right? Sometimes parents wrestle with that. And so I just asked him, I said, okay, I understand that, but do you have that same perspective towards your kids' homework? Do you have that same perspective towards what your kids eat? Like, do you say, hey, 6-year-old, do you want to do your homework tonight, or do you not want to do your homework tonight? It's up to you. It's got to be your choice. Or do you want to eat your broccoli, or would you rather have Oreos? It's up to you. It's got to be your choice. No, you're their parents, and so you feed them what is good. You tell them this is what you're going to do, and you know what happens? Eventually they realize this is good for me. This is going to pay off in the long run. This is actually, vegetables do make my body feel better than McDonald's all the time. And then it's their choice. But it's because you led them in that direction when they were young.